Hey, welcome everybody to the Resilient Living Podcast. My name is Ryan Steva. I'm here with my friend and co-host, Jared Wilson.
Howdy.
So today we're going to be hitting on the second principle of David Holmgren's principles of permaculture. And this one is called catch and store energy. So there's a ton to unpack in those three simple words.
I know, right?
Yeah, I could say four, but I'm not counting and.
No, that doesn't count.
For those who want to be really technical about it, right?
That's just being pedantic.
That's right. So, Jared, I put down that free energy would be an absolute disaster. And we haven't talked about this at all. So, do you have any idea what I'm getting at with that?
I was wondering about that. My assumption is that it would crash the market. That was my assumption.
Sure. It's actually not that.
Okay.
So, here's why. And so the entire podcast today is essentially going to be on energy, how you catch it, how you store it, how you transfer it from one state to another, things like that. We'll talk about kind of the fun side of, the deep dive geek stuff along with the really practical homestead permaculture stuff. But the reason why I said that free energy would be a disaster is that if we had free energy right now, what we do is we'd mine harder. We do the things that
Oh,
are destroying even faster, right?
the irony of that. Because we
Yeah.
can power the equipment that indefinitely and just go. Sure.
Yep. It's to me, it's the identical idea of somebody who is, has a poverty mindset, doesn't understand economics, doesn't understand proper money management, winning the lottery.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they always end up destitute and or in jail. So yeah.
Right. And I think that the way that we're currently running our economics, this idea that it always needs to grow, it always needs to be bigger, always needs to be better, that's actually, if we had free energy, if somebody came up with zero, figured out 0 point energy and
Right.
whatever else that you see people opining about on YouTube.
Cold fusion and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cold, yeah, all that. If we actually had it, we would just destroy ourselves faster. I personally believe. I think it would
I think
power the control grid.
Star Trek has done a disservice in creating this idealized utopian version of like, oh, if we have it all, then we can all pursue all of these wonderful ends. And humans suck.
Yeah.
We wouldn't do that. We would
I
just
was
go to
listen
war and we would destroy each other even more efficiently.
Yeah, exactly, and it'd be about who can harness that energy the most efficiently, the fastest to destroy somebody else
Sure.
and take their stuff or something along those lines. Um,
Unfortunately.
I was listening to it was the most recent Joe Rogan and Elon Musk podcast,
Oh yeah.
and I'm not necessarily a huge fan of either of those people, but
It's always
es
interesting.
especially Musk. It's interesting, and one of the things that they were both basically talking about, and I thought was a asinine idea, was that this new AI and robotics revolution has the potential to bring about essentially this universal high income, is what they called it.
Right.
And I'm like, no, because there's always a bottom level, and there's always this, you know, to think that everybody is going to have a high income and this is all of a sudden going to be good. It's the same idea as free energy. You're just going to see the mining of things, the destroying of things faster, and people without work and purpose getting some huge amount of financial input is not going to be a benefit to society.
No, there's no net gain there.
Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of my first take is we need to figure out how to manage the energy that we're using before we have this abundant energy. And part of having an abundant energy is about figuring out how to manage it. And just like thinking about finances and understanding that if we manage our finances really well
Yeah.
and we keep an appropriate income, we can actually get to a point where that money starts making money for itself.
Yep.
We can do the
It's
same thing with
always
energy.
stewardship. It always comes back
Mhm.
to stewardship, whether we're talking about our own physical bodies, our households, our nation. It doesn't matter. It's all stewardship.
Yep. Yeah. And so the three words that are really part of the title here, the catch, store, energy.
Mm,
I want to dig those apart with you a little bit.
okay, cool.
So let's start with energy. Like, what do you think of when you think of energy, or how does that manifest in your day to day life?
Well, energy is in everything. I mean, like, if there isn't a differential, then there isn't movement, there isn't action, there isn't anything. So energy is kind of the best way to sum up, I guess, that idea of it's a difference in potential.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a difference in potential. That's the kind of kinetic energy, which to me is what you're trying to catch,
Yeah.
right? You're trying to catch that differential,
Hmm.
and then store is the potential. You're trying to put that differential into a state where it's stored over time as
Yeah.
potential.
Where you can reutilize it or whatever. So yeah, whether that's heat or electricity or pressure or whatever. Yeah, you want to be able to hold on to it because catching it's one thing, and it's useful in that moment, but really what's beneficial is being able to use it in the future when you don't have it.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's interesting to me that, the ultimate source of energy is the sun.
Yep,
Practically speaking,
we're all
all
solar powered.
energy, yeah, everything, the entire earth, everything we know and exists is powered by solar nuclear fusion.
Yep, it is,
And
absolutely
a
is.
and so everything is essentially down, like all the other forms of energy are downstream from that form of energy.
Yeah, I mean, like, so your plants that by photosynthesis, they absorb all this energy, they convert, other nutrients into this product, and then your cow comes along and eats said product. Now that energy is still that energy. It didn't go away. It may have changed from the plant into proteins within the cow's structure, but it's still that same energy that was solar at one point. And then we eat
Right.
it and it does the same thing with us.
Yeah, and generally speaking, the lowest form of energy is heat energy. It's the hardest to convert back up that
Right.
scale.
Yeah, right.
So you start at solar energy and you basically get down to heat energy. But heat energy, it can be hard to make still.
Oh
At
yeah.
least at least in the way that we need it. So the less that we need to make heat energy or make heat, the better. So
Hmm.
setting ourselves up in such a way that we can minimize the amount of energy transfer. The energy
Oh
transfer
yes.
is really where the entropy kicks in, and you lose that energy through entropy, whether that's heat or some other lower form of energy being dissipated.
Yeah, well, and we can take the same thing principles and apply it, like you said, to finance. It's our overhead. Like if you have an income stream of $1,000 a month, but you have all of these outgoing costs that eat up bits and pieces of that all throughout that month, then your income is reduced. Well, same thing with energy. If you pay a bunch of money or have a bunch of resources going into heating or cooling your house, but then all of that hot or cold air is just leaking out through bad seals or low E or not low E, high E, I guess, windows or whatever. Why would you do that? Like you'd want to be back to stewardship. You want to be, a good steward of the resources that you have.
Yeah. I mean, let's think about heat. There's a whole bunch of ways to think of this as far as efficiency. So heating a space or heating yourself. These are great ways to understand how we build efficiency into a system.
Hmm.
So the example would be if you're sitting outside and you've got a space heater plugged in, pointed at you while you're outside in the cold,
Right.
it does almost nothing,
Yeah. It's
right?
not beneficial.
Yeah, it uses a ton of energy, it's very expensive, it's very inefficient, and it does very little, and that heat is just dissipated into something else where it's useless to you.
Yep.
Um, Take that down a notch, maybe we put, some, just a surround so wind can't blow past us, air doesn't move. You've increased it a little bit.
Hmm.
Now maybe put insulation in that, you've increased it a little bit more.
Right.
Now maybe use a more efficient fuel source like propane or some other fuel like stored energy in something else. You've increased it more.
Absolutely.
Um, Take that down, we can actually just heat our bodies instead of heating the air around us
That
to
yes.
keep warm.
Yes.
And Paul, I'll remember his name later. one of the big permaculture guys did some studies. Paul Wheaton of Wheaton Labs
Yeah.
did some really interesting studies on how low of wattage you can get down to and actually keep your body warm,
Oh, okay.
comfortably warm. And so he was doing things like, and the idea was when you're working. So let's say you actually work at a desk. He found that with between you can get things like heated keyboards, which are really low wattage, and then
That's
obviously you
funny.
can do heated blankets.
Sure.
So between like a heated blanket, a heated keyboard and mouse, and a little 40-watt incandescent light bulb that was shining directly at
Okay.
the person and at your hands,
Yeah, yeah.
that basically it was about 45 to 50 watts. You could keep yourself warm. And he's up in Wyoming. So this is not like,
Wow.
yeah, this is not, here in Tennessee or down in
Right.
Florida or something. Um,
Interesting.
so we can apply that principle of, you know, having a space heater outside and getting no benefit of it all the way down to, using a efficient heated blanket and a
Sure.
light bulb, um, to anything that we're doing. So we can apply that to homesteading, as far as storing energy in our soil, or in mass or in biomass or thermal mass, things like that,
Sure.
where when energy is abundant, we can store it and then let it slowly release for a purpose over time.
Absolutely.
Um, a great benefit or a great example of that is going to be trees.
Yes.
So trees use the sun to grow and use the soil, but they also build our soil if you're planting the right trees in the right way in the right place.
Right.
And then those can be used for fuel for your home to heat your home. So
Absolutely.
they're biomass. You can use those to create biochar, which can go back in the soil, which can then help sustain the life in the soil, which increases the growth of the next generation of biomass
Yes.
and feeds your animals, things like that, feeds your plant, your garden plants. And so it starts building on itself and you start building organic matter in the soil. You can start using the ash from your fireplace in your soil as well. So you're putting minerals back in.
Right.
So all those condensed and consolidated minerals go back in your soil to feed you, through your plants. So that's a way that we can think of using and storing and cycling energy on our property in a way that becomes efficient, kind of like heating our body rather than heating the great outdoors.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I've noticed a lot. It seems like that's the easier approach, and so that's usually the one that they go with. It's like, oh, well, just you heat the house. Well,
Mhm,
yes, you can, or you can just heat yourself. That's one of the reasons I sell the emergency blankets in the shop. It's like it's so much easier to just wrap yourself in this mylar, reflecting thing because you're constantly radiating heat. I mean, like if you
mhm,
that's why you show up on a thermal, imager is because you're radiating heat. Well, if you can wrap yourself up, then you don't lose the heat. It
right.
stays.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's vital to understand that for survival, preparedness, things like that.
Mhm.
Um, so when we're always talking about being more resilient. And so when we think about heat and we think about keeping ourselves warm in extreme situations, if we understand that heating ourselves rather than heating the air is dramatically more efficient.
Air is
Um,
such a horrible, way of conveying energy. It's yeah, suboptimal.
yes, absolutely.
Well, because yeah, I just had to double check myself. So the Earth is exposed to 3.4 watts per square foot. Per square foot. Like that's a lot of energy that we
Hmm.
have access to all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when people first start doing rain catchment systems, and they're just flummoxed by the volume of water that they're able to capture. I'm like, yeah, that hits all the time. Sun's even better.
Yep. Yeah. And water is another place that we can talk about
Yeah,
storage, right?
like yeah,
And conservation of energy. So, yeah, the volume of water that a roof can put off, you actually have to be careful not to restrain its flow too much,
right.
or else you'll be overflowing your gutters or
Uh
getting them
huh.
ripped off your house.
'Cause
Um,
water's heavy.
yeah. But one of the things that I specifically tell people to do when they're setting up a rainwater catchment system is to put the catchment or the diverter as high as possible.
Oh, yeah, right?
Yep. And the reason for that is then you can put it in a pipe and you've got gravity. So you're using that potential energy of the height of the water. Now you can push that water somewhere else rather than it just going into a container at the bottom of the downspout.
Yeah, and then you have, like, a foot of head pressure versus, 6 feet.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that means you can collect more water. You can put it somewhere that's maybe more useful to you.
Mhm.
It's just better overall. Whereas if you look at one of the pictures that those downspout diverters come with or the
Right.
installation instructions, the diverter's always here and the
I
barrel's
know.
like right here. And it's like, what?
Like, why would you
Why
do
not
that?
put it
Why
up higher?
Right? Well, I mean, you have to build it appropriately to do that, which
Mhm.
fair enough, but they can show that. Yeah, so yeah, 1 inch of rain yields zero point 0.6 gallons of rainwater per square foot. That's a ton of water. Like, that
Mhm.
adds up quick. I mean, you get even a moderate house, what, 1,200 square foot is a regular, so you're looking at like 1,400 square foot of roof.
Right.
That's a bit of, yeah, of
Yeah. And especially
rain.
when you live here in Tennessee.
And then you factor, yeah, so, Vic out in Arizona, he may not have quite so much, but, here in Tennessee, that adds up real fast.
Yeah, here's an example of what I
Yeah.
was talking about. You put the diverter right next to this apparently wine barrel, and then you put it
Hey,
in the in the halfway down the rain barrel.
yeah,
That's
so you only get half the capacity?
right. So, anyways, it's just one of those things I like to mention. But storing water at height is just another way of storing energy.
Mhm. Oh, and that's an old school way of storing energy. I mean, because like, old
Mhm.
school windmills, that's what they did. They would just whenever the wind blew, they'd chug, and they pump it up, 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 up as high as they could get it.
Yep. Yeah, and that's I had them. I know. So I definitely want to kind of work on that or talk a bit about that because before there was electricity, people were pumping water uphill with windmills, and
Yep.
wind is just it's basically another tier down from your solar radiation.
It's an
Solar
offshoot of,
radiation,
but yeah.
yeah, creates heat, creates movement in the
Creates a
atmosphere, and then you
thermal, yeah, expansion, which results in wind, and yeah. Mhm,
Mhm. Yep. And so that wind now, which is a lower grade of energy than the solar, is able to be harnessed into a mechanical energy.
mhm.
And so then you can take that water and move it uphill, which is now a potential energy
Yeah.
as opposed to a kinetic energy until you want to use it. So it's in place so you can use that kinetic
Yep,
energy.
so it is an old school battery,
Mhm.
and
That's
it was,
exactly what it is.
yeah, and they used, when the wind was blowing, they would capture that energy.
Yep.
11 inches, is that what you're getting, Vic? Oof, that is
That's
a
pretty sad.
lot less.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, 55 here in Tennessee. That's, yeah, that's, oof.
Yeah.
But
Well,
but
and
you he gets all 11 inches in one storm, though,
right. He has to plan for the flood.
maybe 2.
Yeah. And it's like if you've ever tried to soak up water with a totally dried out sponge, like a crusty dried out
Right?
sponge,
And
takes a while before it works.
yeah, yeah, so
Um,
you end up with those, well, I've seen those, like, it looks like mud flowing through those, culverts. It's
yeah.
terrifying, like, it destroys things because you have so much physical mass. Well, okay, so this is part of that where you have that energy. That
Mhm,
energy of it being water up high, rushing down through these gullies, collecting all of this debris and dislodging everything and just ripping things apart. That's
mhm,
uncontrolled energy release. Whereas we're trying to, like, hey, let's capture this, and whether it's through swales or whatever, to try to utilize it and slow it
right.
down so that it can be useful.
Exactly. And so the idea of behind swales that people oftentimes reference is slow spread and soak.
Yeah, right.
And so you're trying to slow down the water so it stops eroding, trying to spread it out so that it's useful across the landscape instead of just in the valleys.
Right.
And then you're trying to get it to soak in over that entire area. And so storing water in the soil is one of the biggest ways you can use, we've got the hydrological cycle.
Yeah.
We learned in what, third, fourth grade,
Right.
where sun hits the water, it heats it up, and it evaporates, or you have trans evaporate or evapotranspiration from trees and plants and things. And those then become clouds, which, eventually drop rain. And we can store that in the soil as as that water's coming down, we can store it higher up. But if we're using things like swales or stone lines or other means, and then also increasing the organic matter in our soil,
Yes.
now we can actually start rehydrating a landscape, which then refills water tables. And if you were to do it on a large scale, which is actually quite viable, you can
Mm-hmm.
start refilling aquifers.
Yes. Right.
So, and quite quickly, actually, there's been some work done, I believe in like the Jordan Valley and some other places as well by people like Jeff Lawton,
Mm-hmm.
where they've used large scale bulldozers and keyline swaling
Yeah.
and seen massive change in aquifers and water retention, springs in the desert,
Yes.
things like
Which
Ezekiel
has
and Isaiah talk
massive
about.
yeah, right, which have massive implications. So I was reading this article this week about the tilt of the earth has actually shifted by 31 inches because the level at which the water is being stored, because there was so much water down low in the aquifers, as
Mhm.
it gets pumped up, it changes the center of where the earth is, and it's tilted the axis of the earth and the rotation of the earth because there's not as much water down low like there used to be.
Oh, I had not heard that, but I did
Wild.
hear that, that is wild. Uh, one of the giant dams that, or
Oh,
the
the
biggest
four
dam,
rivers in China
mhm, that it actually
explode
changed
the
the,
earth.
yeah,
Wild. Yeah. So
yeah,
there's like physical reasons for why it's like, and this is back to stewardship. Like we need to take care of our earth. Like what we're doing actually has implications here,
mhm,
good or bad. Like, but going back to what 3, 4 weeks ago, until we know the system well, we can't really start making modifications to it because we don't know
yeah,
what the implications are going to be.
yeah, you're right, we referenced Chesterton's Fence, which is
Yes.
I believe a poem, um, by G.K. Chesterton,
I think, yep.
um, that talks about that very concept, that you shouldn't just go changing something that somebody else did because it's inconvenient to you at the moment, or
Right.
it seems like it's useless. It's important to understand the purpose before you start monkeying with it.
Right.
So, the bottom line to these concepts is that we need to find the ways to efficiently convert energy to slow entropy. So,
Yeah.
realistically, what we're trying to do is slow entropy as much as possible and hold that energy, over as long of a period as we can, spread it out from times of feast to make sure that we have something for those times of that would otherwise be times of famine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's straight Joseph, and in the Bible,
Mhm.
it's like, like, hey, there's going to be this time you're going to have plenty. Don't just gorge yourself on it. Hold
Right,
it. Set it
right.
aside. You're going to need it.
Yeah, and it's like we're building what is effectively a living battery, if we
Yeah.
understand batteries, right?
Right.
And really, no battery is going to store something at full capacity. It's always going to drain a little bit over time.
Yeah.
So whatever we're storing resource wise, we're constantly replenishing that. But as the apex predator and apex steward of the earth,
Yes.
um, we can actually make that healthier and better over time.
We
So it's
should.
like a battery that we can add capacity to year over year
Hmm.
and have compounding returns from as well.
Yeah. Yeah. By reducing the number of drains on the battery, we're vastly improving our available energy source, and then
Mhm.
yeah, we can absolutely increase the um well, and the reactivity, like how quickly it can absorb that energy influx. So in most systems, your initial battery is slow to react and not going to be able to absorb very much. The dry sponge metaphor,
Right.
um, being able to understand that the microbiome of the soil and have all of the fungal aspects and the what's the scientific keyword for lots of
Mycorrhizae fungal
that that stuff.
mycorrhizal
Yes,
fungi and
when
microorganisms.
when you have all of that in the soil and it opens it up and allows that to absorb, it makes that battery that much more efficient to be able to
Mhm.
absorb that. And then going back to your return, so now your soil's richer, so your produce is going to be better, and the cycle continues.
Yeah. Well, I pulled a quote from Paul Stamets, Stamets, I believe.
Okay.
He's like the world's leading uh micrologist, I think is
Okay.
how you say it. Somebody who studies um specifically fungus,
Okay,
um
cool.
mycorrhizae. So his quote was, mushrooms are nature's way of capturing energy. When you grow them, you're storing energy in the soil and creating living systems.
He's not wrong.
No. And mushrooms and mycorrhizae will actually reach out and they'll connect one tree to another. They become the communication system, essentially the nervous system
Yes.
of a forest.
Right?
So you combine that with what we were talking about before, with upping your organic matter, getting your topsoil deeper, getting it more able to absorb water, and you can actually start thinking of a forest as an ocean.
Mm,
So,
okay.
okay, so think of a foot depth of soil in a healthy forest
Yeah.
should have about an inch worth of water.
Okay.
So about a twelfth of the depth of the soil in a healthy forest should be
Wow.
water,
Wow.
right? So you take that forest and fold it in half. Now you've
Okay.
got 2 inches.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
keep doing that for a while and you realize that the forest is essentially an ocean that's just spread out more.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
It's like a giant lake,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And so we can do that on our own property, but a huge part of that is mycelium. It's the fungal growth underneath the soil that's connecting all these things together, where one tree says, I need this nutrient, and another tree is able to provide that, or maybe some soil microbe is able to then deposit what that tree needs in
Right.
exchange for the sugar from the tree. And so there's these incredibly complex exchanges happening, and the more they happen, the more nematodes you have, the more things you have in the soil, the more that depth of water retention ability per foot of soil
Sure.
goes up.
Yeah, yeah. I like it.
Yeah. So, somewhere where like Vic's at, where we were talking about, you plan for um, you you plan for the flood
Yeah,
essentially.
the deluge. Yeah.
Yeah, and it happens a couple of times a year, maybe, if you're lucky. And so, but over time, if humans were actually doing things on a large scale, like what we're talking about,
Mm.
I think most of, not all of, but most of the desertified areas would actually, you'd see that greenery start creeping back over those
Oh,
areas.
that's actually what I was been looking for. I had seen, and I can't find the picture of a before and after, basically, of some guy who'd gone into one of the deserts, the Gobi or Sahara somewhere, and had started this project of cutting micro. I don't know if they were like mini swales or what they were, and started. There's some YouTube videos that I found, um, but it's all
Jeff
green.
Lawton, yeah, Jeff Lawton's Greening in the Desert
Yeah,
is,
yeah, yes,
let me see if I can pull a picture of that for people because it's truly fascinating.
it
Uh,
really is.
yeah. If you Do you have anything to talk about, Jared, for a second while I pull
Oh,
this?
you're good. Well, I was actually thinking about like how predators have changed landscapes. Like in I
Mhm.
want to say it was Yellowstone. They didn't have any. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you have this green in the middle. He created his own oasis,
Yeah. Yeah, this was just one of the projects. I think this is the second version of the Greening the Desert project.
right?
But it's not to throw you off too much,
You're
but
good.
this specific project I find really fascinating. because I was listening to Jeff talk about how they did this, and they were actually using a process you can find in, I believe it's Isaiah, where it
Okay.
talks about the restoration of this region.
Okay.
And the first thing it mentions is it's like the acacia tree will grow, and then this tree will grow, and then this tree will
Ah,
grow.
so
Um,
he just followed that same progression?
yeah, it's literally like the progression given, I believe it's Isaiah, for this region in the end times was that you'd have this progression of these trees that would show up until you had basically fruiting trees,
Sure.
in which basically, if you watch the documentary of this, they do that, and then they end up. What happens is these trees start, and the mulch and things that they put down start removing the or binding the salt in the soil that's creating a hindrance for the actual fruit producing trees and the
Okay.
mushrooms and the
Yeah.
mycelium. So once they start providing this mulch cover and some swales and some of the initial trees like acacias or other pioneer species, mushrooms start popping up.
Sure.
And once mushrooms start popping up, things like fig and date trees start growing.
Sure.
um, so it's this incredible, beautiful process, that goes on with that.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So what is your take on the whole like no-till gardening?
Overall, I'm absolutely for no-till because the soil can do most, like the soil organisms can do most of the work for you.
Sure.
There are some cases where turning over soil can be useful. Um, I tend to lean towards something like a broad fork if you can,
Okay.
or or
So
to
just disrupting the soil, lifting it and setting it back down?
yeah, or just opening it enough that oxygen, water, and organic material can get down in.
Okay.
And so you might start by putting a layer of compost on top,
Yeah.
and then you use a broad fork just to open it up for some of that to get down in, and then
Sure.
water it and things. But what's incredible is so on my property, I started with really compacted, useless red clay.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I layered that with cardboard, manure, wood chips
Okay.
is the first part that I started. And within a year, I had, nice black soil about that deep.
Nice.
Now it's about this deep.
Sure.
And it slows down as you get deeper. But um really, if you cover the soil and let the earthworms and the nematodes and all the other other things do their work and give them something to feed off of at the top,
Right.
um, you can do incredible things without tilling. And with more traditional agriculture, you can use things like seed drilling,
Mm.
which or low till methods,
Yeah, right.
which reduce that. But really, in my opinion, the big thing is not leaving the ground fallow.
Mm.
So um, traditional agriculture with cover crops and then roll crimping in the spring and seed drilling of whatever crops you're planting
Yeah.
will actually within a couple of years will make the that soil so much better than it was that you won't even notice that you don't have the chemical inputs that you used to.
Nice. Nice.
Yep. Yeah, it can be actually quite profitable and there's people doing it very profitably as well.
Ooh.
So
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh. Ooh. So if Vic finds a mushroom growing in his environment, that's presumably a positive sign. How micro or macro would I expect that evidence of a mushroom to reach inches, feet, yards?
The mushroom itself, it depends on the mushroom and the type.
Okay,
Um,
fair enough.
I would say if it's just by itself, you're looking at feet, probably 3-foot radius. If you see other mushrooms popping up all around, then you've probably got a underground network of if they're the same mushroom and you've got one popping up here and one over here and one way over there, they're probably all connected.
Makes sense.
Yep. So it can be fairly broad, but just one mushroom is probably um not a huge, not saying it's in a huge area. The other thing for people like Vic or somebody who's starting with really poor soils or really low water or other issues like that,
Right.
if you start in one area and expand out, now that mycelium from the mushrooms and all the
Oh,
earthworms and everything else
yeah.
can has a like a home base, and it can
It
make
can
its way
spread.
out. Yeah, exactly. So rather than trying to, improve your entire property all at once, think about consolidating. And we've talked about this before, but zone one type thinking, where you've got various zones in permaculture, and zone one is going to be your most intensive first area that you focus on, and letting that system grow out from there is going to bring a lot more improvement than trying to improve your entire property all at once.
Mhm. Yeah, sure, that makes sense. Yeah, especially, like, someplace where, you have limited good soil. So, like, yeah, he's found a mushroom, so that's a good spot. Maybe you should, focus on that spot a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah, so Sepp Holzer, I'm just gonna throw out another quote here. This one's
Yeah,
from Sepp Holzer, and he says, "Nature provides everything in abundance. The trick is to catch and store the energy and then redistribute it.
right.
Redistribute it."
Well,
Right.
yeah, I mean, we've already covered that, like,
Mhm.
the amount of energy with solar, the amount of water from rain. We have constant, winds in some places. Yeah,
Yep.
there's energy to be had. It's just a matter of being able to get to it and being able to capture it in a meaningful way.
Right.
If I were to use wind to, bend over a tree and use the spring tension, I mean, yes, but like that's not a good use of that energy.
Right.
Whereas, pumping water, water has a lot of weight, so you have a lot of potential energy there. So yeah, there's definitely better ways of storing energy and more useful ways of harvesting it.
Yeah. Well, I think we've kind of harped on the concept of like what is energy,
Yeah,
what are the more theoretical sides of this. I think we should talk about some of the really practical ways we can
cool.
harness, store, use energy.
Okay,
So, one of the really obvious ones that everybody thinks of immediately is going to be solar electricity or PV.
yeah.
You know, y- running your house off of solar or part off of solar instead of entirely off the grid, which reduces dependency and things like that.
Mhm.
But in some ways, I find that to be the least interesting
Well,
way.
it's kind of boring. I mean, really.
Yeah, it's also inefficient.
Okay,
Um,
how so?
so when you're using a solar panel, at least in the current state, 20% of energy catch is considered pretty decent, right?
Yes, yes.
So from the sun, 20% of the actual energy that's hitting that panel, if it gets used, is really great. And then you have significant losses getting that power to the
Through
battery.
your systems, yes, yeah. Converting into AC, you're gonna have losses. In storage of the batteries, you're gonna have losses. Yeah, all through the system.
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
Well,
having your
it's like
inverter on.
internal combustion. I mean,
Mhm.
like, so the theoretical internal combustion is 28% efficient. When you actually get down to the wheels, you're like 3,
Yeah.
3, maybe 8% efficient. Like, it's
Mhm.
horrible. It's really bad.
Yes. Yeah, and to me, solar electric is I don't get me wrong, there's great use cases for it,
Sure.
but nature is designed to use solar energy way more efficiently.
Yes. Well, it's
There's
because we're
very
we're
little.
we're we're kind of single-minded in, like, we wanna make electricity
Mhm.
with the solar energy. Well,
Right.
that's not, like you said, that's not actually the best way to use it. It's like it's already heat. Like,
Mhm.
let's use the heat,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, 'cause you could do something like, if we were trying to stack our energy use, you could take those panels and maybe you could put some type of water, not radiator, but
Do it.
some water heat collection system, and run that through and heat your water for your house and put that into a tank.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
then
so
when you
if you
turn your
run as a preheater,
Mhm.
for your incoming cold water, the, reduction in temperature will make your photovoltaics more efficient. So they have what's called heat soak. So the
Mhm.
the actual, layers, the p-n junction layers, get so much energy that they don't really want to absorb any more energy to pass it as electricity, and they just reduce their efficiency. So in the theoretical, they may be 26% efficient, but in practical application, especially if you're in some place like, Vic is, where it gets stupid hot, you may be down into single digit efficiency in photovoltaics real
Yes.
quick.
In fact, people will in like Arizona and other places like that, they'll install sprinkler
Spray,
systems
yeah, right. Which keep them
to
clean and keep
yeah,
them cool. Yeah.
right.
But if you can do
Um,
it in an enclosed system, so
mhm,
one of the things I had tested back when I was doing biomedical stuff was I used just some Peltier cells just to test the theory of, temperature's effect on photovoltaics. It's amazing. It was great.
mhm,
And then I came up with the idea. I was like, okay, well, I can just do a closed water jacket and physically mount it with thermal conductive paste or adhesive right onto an extruded aluminum substrate and flow water through real thin. Didn't even take that much.
mhm,
The efficiency went through the roof. The efficiency more than took care of the pump requirements of pumping, because I did a closed loop
right.
easily. So if you're just naturally flowing water, dude, you're done. Like it's gonna be so much better.
Yeah. And you could do something like a closed loop that has a not a refrigerant,
Glycol,
yeah, like a
yeah.
glycol in it so it doesn't freeze.
So it doesn't freeze, and then you don't have bacterial growth and all the other stuff. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So now not only are you making your PV array more efficient,
Oh yeah.
you're also using that heat energy that was otherwise getting dissipated.
Yep. So you'd
Um,
run through a plate frame heat exchanger,
mhm,
run one side on the glycol side, the other side on your cold water inlet, and you've got warmish water at least coming out the other side.
right.
Hey, and that's actually a really cheap thing. Like a plate, like you could get like a 150 BT, 150,000 BTU plate frame heat exchanger for like cheap. Like they're like 50
Mhm,
bucks. Like it's not bad, and you get them on the used market even better. They throw
right.
them away.
Yep. Yeah, so that's just one way of, like, stacking these systems together to reduce the entropy of the energy that we're dealing with, um, rather than letting it escape and being a lot less single-minded about how we approach something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and looking at it's like how does nature use this is a great way to start. It's
Mhm,
like not how I want to like contort it and make it, fit my needs, but like, okay, well, how does nature actually like um down in it was Southern California, somebody he dug this cavern basically, and he was growing fruit trees in what was a desert, and in
mhm,
this like and by shade having some partial shade, and it only got a certain amount of sun during a certain amount of time. He was growing these beautiful massive trees in this like open topped cave that he made in his backyard.
mhm.
He's just using what was already there and letting it, god do god things.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, and, I was just thinking about more ways you could stack, stack efficiency, and one of the things that I did is you know how with attics, intention of attics is sun hits the roof, heats
Mhm.
up, uh, transfers the type of, you go from radiant heat to convective heat and all that,
Yeah,
and it's difficult to get it, it reduces the amount of heat that gets
it
in the
creates that
house during the summer.
thermal barrier. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've got a rabbit hutch and rabbits are very sensitive to heat.
Yes, they are.
And so I do have it like insulation under the roof,
Okay.
but it's not, you don't have that gap where air can push through and pull that
Sure.
heat, that convective heat out. So what I did is I put a solar panel on top of the roof with a gap.
Nice.
So now you've got that gap where the convective heat can blow out, but I'm also harnessing the energy that was otherwise causing me a problem for my rabbits.
Yes, right?
And I'm using that energy then to feed to a couple of computer fans
Oh,
that then
yeah.
my rabbits can sit in front
So you
of
have
if they
airflow.
want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, stacking these things or thinking about, in your barn or some other building shed or something that you want to keep cooler, instead of running an air conditioning unit or big fans or something like that, you can actually use your solar panels if you're mounting them on the roof to reduce that heat transfer as well. So, just another way to think about reducing your energy use by reducing how much AC you need.
Sure. Yes.
So obviously we've talked before about moving water and just even in this episode, but you can
Right.
do that with PV as well or solar panels.
Yeah.
So you can do direct solar. You can move water uphill, store it in a tank uphill, and have pressure for later when the sun's not shining. So you're doing essentially what? Oh, it looks like you've got. Let's
Oh,
see this.
I had to go. I had to go find it. So
Yeah,
this is the tree grown in this dude's backyard cave that he made. Is in
that's pretty cool.
Fresno, California, which is not exactly a it's not an inhospitable, but it's not a nice climate to be growing stuff in. So yeah,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do, and some things are more useful for your time and effort. Obviously,
Sure.
that's gonna be a huge amount of effort for
Yes.
a single fruit tree, but you could probably take that idea and expand on it somehow.
Well,
Use
I
it.
mean, if you go back, multiple generations to when our houses, our homes were actually built with these courtyards they were intentional, so as to provide constant shade as the sun
Mhm.
traveled. There was always a side of the building that was casting a shadow, and so you always had this cooler area in the middle of their building, which kept your whole house cooler.
Yeah.
And so, like, there was a lot of intentionality to it because we have the benefit of electricity, and unfortunately we abuse it because of that.
Mhm.
Because we end up building these um very inefficient homes that are not thermally efficient, that are not sensitive to the environment. They don't allow for natural convections to naturally cool. They don't allow for passive heating and cooling of the home. Like, there's a lot of this stuff that we ignore because we don't need to think about that because we have electricity.
Yeah. I mean, the simple ideas like a breezeway that used
Yeah.
to exist in homes or
Yes. Now we close those
understanding.
in.
Yeah. Stack effect is like one of the simplest concepts is as far as, renewable energy or how to cool your house using stack effect,
Yeah.
which is basically just, for those I assume people know, but I don't want to assume too much, is that you've got your hot air rises, so you've got convection. If you've got a, a place higher up where you can let air out and a place really low where you can let air in,
Yep.
stack effect basically is the hot air goes up, it creates a vacuum, so the
Pulls
cold
in
air
that
gets
cooler.
pulled in.
Mhm.
So that can be used to great effect, especially for animals and things as well.
Right. Well,
Um,
and conversely, it can be detrimental because, as
mhm,
you pointed out, actually, I had one of those silly little, room air conditioners, and because of the positive displacement of that pressure, it was sucking in all of this hot air from around it anywhere else. Basically, it was sucking in all of this hot air. It's like, yeah, I had cool air blowing on me, but the actual room temperature went up. It didn't go down.
yeah, yeah. Those the portable air conditioners that you
Yeah.
put like one tube out the window.
You're
So
right.
there's higher quality ones. They're like six,
Yes.
700 bucks that have
Right.
two tubes, but because they're pushing air out to function, yeah, they're pulling air, they're creating negative pressure.
Yeah. It
Um,
has to come from somewhere, so it
you're
sucks it
right.
in.
Yep. And that can obviously be an issue too. Like in my house, I've got an older home. It's pretty leaky as far as drafts and things. I've
Sure.
plugged up a lot of things, but there's some areas where hot air is moving out through the roof in the
Yeah.
winter,
Right.
and that sucks in cold air from underneath the house.
Sure.
So you need to be able to control it to make it useful, or
Well,
you need
yeah,
to design it right.
I saw a really cool, semi-subterranean home. It was a, Connex, or no, it was a what's the curved old military ones?
I'm
Anyway,
not sure.
one of those ones.
Yeah.
Um, he had spray created the outside and then he buried it.
Mhm.
But he had intentionally done this, so that there was this tube coming from down low in the front, and then there was an outlet up high at the back, and he had gates on them, and he could open and close them as he needed. And
Mhm.
via natural convection, it would just, hot air rises, it goes to the top, goes out through this exhaust, and it sucks in the air. And so during certain times of the year, he just opened this or close it, and it kept it going. A Quonset hut. Thank you, Vic. Yes, a Quonset hut.
Gotcha.
Vic's
Cool.
all over it.
Yeah, so to what you were saying before, I've got a quote here from Vandana Shiva that I think was really applicable
Okay.
to how you're explaining that. She says that energy is the lifeblood of the earth, but it is not something that should be extracted and consumed blindly. It must be captured and nurtured so that it can be sustained both could sustain both the earth and its inhabitants. So,
Stewardship
yep, comes back to stewardship.
every time.
And she's got a very different worldview than you or I do.
It's interesting how
But
truth is truth, though.
yeah, it is. And it comes through in that, somebody who's at least has a modicum of understanding of how things actually work
Right.
can look at things and go, you know what, we should be good stewards is just a good idea overall.
It's a novel concept, really taking care of your stuff. I mean, I deal with that with my kids. Like they'll throw their things around or leaving it laying on the floor. It's like, dude, if you want this, you need to take care of this. Like you spent your money on this. Why would you just lay it, on the ground for it to be stepped on? You
Hmm.
know, we're in the same boat. We just we have such a the earth is so massive. It's so hard to grasp, that we need to take care of it. But we do. We absolutely do. And we can, like, just from our little corners of the world, we can have our gardens, and we can reinforce the mycelium, and we can support it, and we can share the words through a wonderful platform like Facebook, and you know Amazon, or YouTube and whatever. Like, we actually get to share this, and that's awesome.
Yeah. And we get to, I think back, I was teaching the permaculture, like the intro to permaculture class,
Yeah.
that I think we met at,
Yes.
but is a class at the farmer's storehouse.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
I
A
had
lot of fun.
brought with like a container of the compost that my chickens had made.
Okay.
And somebody comes up to me at the end of the class and they're like, "Could I have that?" Because they had just moved on to a property and they wanted
Sure.
to start
You want to
introducing
start? Yeah.
microbial life. I'm
Yes.
like, "Of course, yeah." Like,
Right.
it's like sharing your sourdough starter or something.
Yeah. And awesome. Like,
Mhm.
let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it probably wasn't necessary. I'm sure she could have collected, she could have made her own by making compost, but
It
I'm
gives her
happy to
that
give it
that
to her.
little head start. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're sharing it in that sense or just sharing information, showing others. I mean, when somebody comes over and sees, especially in the spring, and they get to like walk through the orchard
Oh
or,
yeah.
go down to the spring or something like that, and they start to see the not just the production, but the beauty of what that actually looks like,
Right.
um, they get inspired by that as well.
Sure.
So we can be a positive virus in the world.
Right. We're infecting the world with beauty. So
That's right.
take it.
Yep, absolutely. I think one of the things we have to think about is there's a upfront cost to this.
There
You
is.
know,
Yes.
there's
Sometimes
an
it's monetary, sometimes it's time, sometimes it's just sheer effort.
Mhm,
But there's always a cost. And
yeah,
and we talked about it on the episode. We talked about trade-offs. There's always a cost.
yep,
It's just, are you willing to put it in? Like, are you willing to either spend the money or the time or the effort?
yeah. Well, and if I wanna put in the money and pay for things that are actually detrimental, like, say, Sevin dust and, chemical fertilizers and things like
Right.
that, I can make a really nice looking garden for a few years,
Yep.
maybe for a lot of years.
Yeah.
But the second I stop paying for those things, those inputs, and what's
It's
coming
done.
out of that garden isn't healthy,
No.
it
No.
just looks nice.
Right.
So, those upfront costs, whether they're time investment, whether they're effort, whether they're thought or money or whatever else, we do have to weigh those because,
Mhm.
like we talked about last week, money, at least in my definition, or
Yeah.
it's a store of energy.
Mhm.
And so if we throw a huge amount of effort at something that could have been done for a lot less or in a slightly less perfect way, we can get a lot more outcome from that or a lot more
Yeah.
benefit from it.
Yeah, and that's where, wisdom comes in, and leaning on your resources, leaning on the community. It's like, "Hey, I wanna accomplish this. What's the best way to go about that?" Where do I spend the money? Where do I spend the time? Where do I spend the effort?
Yeah. And so kinda on that line, so Jeff Lawton was the guy who did the Greening the Desert.
Yeah.
Um, and this is a quote from him. He says, "The biggest mistake in agriculture is to deplete resources. We must store energy in the system so that it regenerates itself with minimal outside inputs."
I mean, that's like that could have been financial advice. Like,
Mhm.
don't spend money on something that's gonna cost you money. Spend money on something that's gonna make you money.
Yeah.
Because functionally, it's the same thing. It's like, I wanna hand off my we'll call it farm, to my kids functional and like self-sustaining, and where they don't have to fuss with it as much as I did.
Right.
Um, like, why wouldn't I? Well, I want to hand the earth off the same way
Mhm.
to the next 6 generations,
Yeah. Yeah, our kids should be standing on our shoulders.
not digging
And
out from the the crap heap that we left them.
right. And what does Proverbs say? Something like, "Blessed is the man who leaves an inheritance to his children's children."
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Something along those lines. I'm probably butchering it, but, um, the idea that what we do should actually be a blessing, not just to our kids, but, we should be able to think multiple generations ahead and go, because we wanna break free from that 4th turning cycle,
right. Yeah.
of good men make good time, or strong men make good times, good
Yep.
times make
Weak
weak men,
men
and
weak men make bad times, and bad times make, yeah, strong men.
strong men. And so if we can break that cycle where our kids are actually standing on our shoulders as a permanent situation where they get to learn the lessons that we had to learn, they were hard fought, and we can teach them but instill them in them in a way that they don't go, "It's not of value because I didn't learn it through huge amounts of pain."
Sure.
And so then they can take that next step up
Yeah.
and
Do you think
and
that's
learn new
possible? I mean,
lessons.
like, really? I mean, because that sounds like that is just the strong men making good times.
I think it is, but it with caveats,
Sure,
right?
sure,
Like,
always.
you can't hand your kids a giant inheritance and go, "Here you go,
Here you go.
do what
Yeah,
you want
right.
with it."
No, gotta have to
But
work
if you
for it.
teach them, yeah, if you teach them proper stewardship.
Well, and to value, it's like it's good to work hard. It's
Mhm,
you shouldn't just want to be able to sit around and play on the Xbox all day. Like
right.
that shouldn't be what you want.
Mhm. Yeah, so I think it's a matter of consistently and intentionally instilling things in your children,
Sure.
spending time with them, building those things, introducing um, proper stressors at proper times
Okay, I like that.
intentionally,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Just like you don't go to the gym and start bench pressing 300 pounds,
right.
because when you try,
So
it would
share
just
something.
fall on your chest and crush you, or at best, maybe you'd pull a muscle, right?
Yeah, right.
And then you never want to go back to the gym. So I think it takes a lot of careful thought about how we got to the things that we think are positive about how we think, how we function, what we understand,
Sure.
and introducing those to our kids in a way and in a time that builds that character and that understanding in them.
Which is, like, you really have to become a student of your kids to do that, because,
Mhm.
like, I know how I would do that with my son is very, very different than how I would do that with my daughter.
Yes. Well, and being observant of ourselves and of human nature,
Mhm.
and taking the Bible for what it says, things like that, to understand, like, yeah, something as simple as yelling never it might stop a given situation, but nobody remembers. Like, if you yell at a kid, they don't remember what you yelled at them, but they remember not to do the thing for that moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's and that's appropriate at times. If a kid's gonna run out in traffic and you're like,
Yes.
"Stop."
Yeah, right.
We can talk about not running into traffic a little more thoroughly later,
Afterwards, yeah, right.
right?
Yeah, there is
Um,
purpose in it,
yeah,
but they're gonna the lesson is learned quietly.
right. Yep. And so understanding just how the human brain works, what incentivizes people, I believe Charlie Munger said, "Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome."
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And so being realistic about what is the actual incentive here? Not what do I think I'm making an incentive, or what am I saying out of my mouth? It's what is the actual incentive, and we'll see the outcome based off of that.
Mhm. Sure.
Well, I think we've been at it for about an hour. I think we've
Yeah,
covered a lot of it. Is there
yeah.
any
That's why I
like
was just looking through the notes, seeing if there's anything, other, um I like your energy use and audits, because that's something that I'm bad about is once I build something, once I start, it's like, okay, it's gonna take on it'll go on forever. And no, I need to actually monitor it. I need to go back and evaluate it, see if I can do it better, see if there's something that I didn't understand. Usually that is the case. Um, so doing those audits has really, really been useful, at least in my experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the easy way to think about this is either financial or like house energy
Yeah,
audit, right? So,
right,
thinking about, do I have like 10 subscriptions to $15 things that
right.
every month that, $150 goes out of my bank account and I didn't even notice because, well, it
Death
just
by a
does
thousand
it.
cuts. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, or am I buying a $5 coffee every day, or I don't know, they're like $7 or something.
I know they've gotten
Uh,
ridiculous. Yeah,
they're bad. Um, and what is that actually doing to my budget, to my bottom line? So that type of auditing when you're uh, an example would be chickens. If
mm,
you're feeding your chickens and they're flinging the food around and scratching it into the ground, well, you might get slightly more fertile ground, but probably not worth it for the cost of the feed.
yeah. That is not an efficient way of
Yeah.
making your ground more fertile.
So I've had people that I've worked with who have like 4 chickens, and they're going through more feed than my 15 to 18 chickens,
Oh, oh wow, oh
right?
my, yeah. That's
And you sit there and observe for a minute and you're like, "Well, it smells bad," right?
ah,
So you've got something that's highly fertile getting wet and just sitting and festering.
yeah.
And then you notice like, "Oh, there's like 20, cardinals hanging around here all the time."
Okay.
Oh, they're eating the food as well because it's just
Oh yes,
open and available. And then
sure.
like, there's evidence of rats. And they're like also losing eggs. So you put all the pieces together and you're like, well, here's my little audit. Put the feed in a way that the chickens can't spread it around like that, or it can be contained.
Right.
And, you'll increase your efficiency dramatically and reduce your inputs dramatically, and just have a better all overall health of your chickens and system, by making a small change.
Sure. Sure. And I think
And
it's a good and helpful way of thinking about, like you said, whether it's finances or chicken feed or whatever, is thinking about that battery idea
Mhm,
of the resources that we have are this battery, and if the battery is getting drained prematurely, let's figure out where that's going, and let's see if we can't plug that. um I mean, I actually get to do a lot of financial consulting in the shop, like,
mhm,
fairly regularly. Because people come in like, oh yeah, I really want that, but I just don't have the money. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine, I totally get that. What can we do? Like, let's start talking about your finances. Like, well, where's your money going? Like, oh,
mhm.
okay, well, hey, you've got this. Well, what if you did this instead? And here's some you know other options. And
You mean you don't just say, "Hey, you can finance it through me."
I have yelled at people for doing that. Like, they pull out the credit card. I'm like, stop, no,
Right.
you will wait. I no, you will not. Like, I will refuse to sell this to you.
Yep, and that's, you're not gonna find that most places, but, that comes when you actually care about your community.
I do. I really, really do. I want to see my community um, become resilient and
Mhm.
flourish. it's not, we're not the wealthiest of areas. And so I know, how far we need to make our dollars stretch. And
Yeah.
with the devaluation of the dollar continuing, it's going to get worse. So
Hmm.
we need to be very judicious about where those dollars go and about where those resources go, where our time goes, because
Yeah.
I can't get time back. Like I can get dollars back, eventually, but like I can't get my time back. So
Right.
where I spend my time is really, really important to me.
Hmm. Yeah. And this is a weird tie. My brain ties weird things together. So
Good.
let's run with it. When you're doing that with your local community, you're building relationships and you're building, we talked about different forms of capital last
Mm.
podcast.
Yeah.
You're building social capital.
Yes.
And we're talking about in this podcast about how do we have our kids stand on our shoulders, and part of that is going to be through things like mentorship. Somebody else in the community who, uh, you know it's not just dad telling me this thing. It's like,
Right.
you know other dudes in the community who come around your son, and when he gets to a certain age, start treating him like a man and expecting that out of him.
Right.
But you're building the social capital with them. You're building your community, and God forbid one of us dies before the due time, and
Sure.
now there's other people in that community who are like going to be there for your family, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like
There's a
life
vested interest.
insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this idea of social capital and how we're actually pouring into others, not necessarily expecting something back, but realizing that it's creating a stronger community that will just in and of its nature give back.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like planting a tree, it's not that we're planting it necessarily expecting something back. And in fact, there's this amazing quote, and I don't know if it's attributed to anybody, but I think it's a Chinese proverb that a society can be measured by the willingness of old men to plant trees that they'll never sit that the shade that
Oh
of the
yeah.
tree
Yeah.
that they'll never sit under.
Right.
Um, and so it's not that we're necessarily expecting something back, but building that form of capital and understanding that there's all these different forms of capital that we should be investing at least in little ways into, um,
Absolutely.
and not letting your neighbor go into debt to buy their next plate carrier or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Yeah, like no, there's time for that. Like if it really comes down to that, I'm going to stand in front of you and I'm going to protect you because I've where is it? Right there. I
Yeah, there it
have
is right
like
behind you.
it is. Um, it's not Calvin's though. I've got to get mine from Invictus. So if you're in the market for a plate carrier, Invictus Templar. Um, so, speaking of my
Yeah.
community, that's a guy in my community who's making plate carriers and selling them. So I want to support him. I want to see his business succeed because if his business succeeds, then we succeed as a community. It's just
Hmm.
one more notch in that, that totem of like, no, we get to, well, even whenever I sell radios, I always include, I think I've mentioned, I always include a channel. It's Van Buren.
Hmm.
And if anything ever happens, everybody can switch to Van Buren and they can talk to each other. That's not something that even want to monitor. Like
Right.
I don't even, I want this to be them taking care of them. If I get to be involved, fantastic, cool, right on. I don't have to be here for that though, because
Right.
if they all know that, if they all have that resource, then they can lean on each other and they can be there for each other. They may not even know each other. Like I've sold these radios to those guys. I've sold these radios to those guys. They may not know each other that well, but
Right.
in an emergency, they can talk.
Yeah. And there's a central point of at least some amount of vetting and trust,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you probably don't have a lot of creeps coming into your shop buying stuff from you, right?
Not so much. No.
Yeah. So there's a certain there's like a certain vetting already in that it's coming from your shop, right?
Yeah.
So even if they don't know the person on the other side of that radio, there's a little bit of built-in
They can
trust.
trust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and that's
that's
really, I keep coming back to this in my brain of trust and how important trust is. If I can't, and we talked about this last time, if I can't trust my food, if I can't
mhm,
trust my dollar, if I can't trust the government, which I don't, if I can't trust, like, what do you do? Like
mhm.
when I can't trust, like, no, I've got to build trust. I'm going to build this into my community. And that's really what community is the culmination of just trusting your neighbor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think You know, it's how do you tie it back to capturing and storing energy? Well, trust is in one
It's a
sense, it's the store
great
of energy.
stored yes, it's a great store of energy. Because it is effort. It's effort on all of our parts, and that's the energy. And that store can come back tenfold. Like it really
Mhm.
truly can.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you need a GSD day to, you know, take care of some major issue that did pop up.
I know lots of people around here who would be there real quick
Yep,
if I needed something done. So, yeah.
exactly. So, I think on that, I'm good unless you had any other
No, that's a good one.
thoughts.
That's a good one to
Yeah,
end on.
good. So, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to let Jared go first with how you can find him and what he does.
Alrighty. So I'm Jared Wilson. I own and operate Resilient Living. So we're a small store right off of 111 between Sparta and Spencer. You can find us online, www.resilientliving.com. I sell de- preparedness stuff. I sell books on horticultures and gardening. I sell knives and camping stuff. Just your, I won't say your generic outdoor stuff because it's not. Like I'm really intentional and I'm really picky about what I have in the store because I have to be judicious. It's only a 500 square foot shop, so I got to be, and I want good quality stuff for a reasonable cost. And I don't want to sound too sell-y, but it's really important to me that my community can be as resilient as possible and make their dollars go as far as possible. And so that's really kind of been my driving motive force is finding the best products for the lowest cost out the door. And so we've just switched over. So all pricing that is now tax inclusive. So when you come into the shop, what you see is what you pay.
Yeah, that was really nice. I purchased some stuff from you, what, like a week or two ago,
Yeah.
and he's like, "No," I'm pulling out extra bills for taxes, and
Nope.
it's like, no, that's included, which
Not
is
anymore.
great. No, I love that. I do that for most people don't know this, but I'm also a home inspector,
Yeah.
licensed home inspector, but I do that for my home inspections as well. I'm there's no hidden cost here.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
just
this is what it is. Well, because so I worked at a motorcycle shop, and it drove me crazy. They're like, "Oh yeah, this motorcycle is 699.99.
mhm,
Not out the door. It's not. It's a thousand
right,
dollars out the door after
right.
all your fees and all that." It's like, no, I'm done with this. Like, no, we're just gonna tax inclusive. It's just that's what it is. So
Yep. Yeah, I bought a car from a used car from a dealership, and I'm like, how's it gonna be this expensive? And that was the price tag. I start looking through all the stuff in there.
dealer prep and option. Yeah, right.
Yeah, one of them was like, we've got some means of finding your they had etched numbers into the glass,
No.
like really little ones into the glass.
Yes.
So if your car got stolen, they're like, "Well, we'll have that information on file." And I'm like,
I didn't ask for that. I'm not paid
I
for
didn't
that.
ask for that. If I really want to, I'll take a picture of that, I guess,
Yeah, right.
and say, that gets me 500 bucks off. Like, what? Anyways, Jared won't do that to you
No, I will not.
at Resilient Living.
That's right.
Um, all right. So my name's Ryan Steva. I run the homesteadconsultant.com. I help people set up homesteads. I do consultations on site as well as system designs, site designs, things like that. Basically, I just want to help you be more efficient and succeed at homesteading. So that's what I do. I've got my YouTube channel, which may be where you're watching this, which has lots of other do it yourself and informational videos on homesteading, as well as kind of like homestead hacks, stuff like that. So feel free to dig through those videos. Please like and subscribe. It really does help us.
Yes,
Keep things going and get the word out to people and build the community. So,
absolutely.
well, thank you all for being here. And Tuesdays at 6 is our regular schedule. So, most likely, if you stop by here again Tuesday at 6, you'll find us talking about some other nerd topic.
Most likely.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right. See ya.